Hi, this is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team. We are back for session 19 of the Hope to Hope conference with my beautiful co-host,
Coni Meyers with Kick Butt Leadership.
We have had quite a day already. This is day 3 of the conference, of a 4-day conference.
And we still have this interview and another one to go, and wowsy.
Yeah. We have been, as usual, I will just say that this is what we have come to expect, amazing sauce on these interviews, because people have come with the understanding, and they do understand that this is actually a gift, and I feel like it's a gift to me first, but it's a gift to everyone who's listening, because we are telling stories of where we've come from or things we've been through to help you get through whatever you're going through. This conference was started because I went through a terrible thing with my son passing away. And, you know, instead of just grieving and leaving at that and isolating myself, I learned to celebrate his life by serving. And so this conference has nothing to do with selling or recruiting. You can take off you can put your guard down, because it has nothing to do with that. It is simply a gift to everyone who listens. And we are excited that you're here. We're excited that you're following us. Our next guest is incredible. She's like a well-kept secret, is what I think of her as. Hey, Kelly Cornelson, she's on with us. Our next guest is a powerhouse extraordinaire, and I will tell you, I knew her for a little while, and then we actually went to lunch, and wow, what she did for our little waitress was amazing. What she, her heart is so big. This is the thing. This is what makes a common denominator on the Hope to Hope. Her heart is so big to serve. She can't help herself when we're out to lunch. We were having a meeting at lunch, and she cannot help but impact the little waitress that was waiting on us. And it blessed me so much to watch her in action. I knew from that day that I wanted her to come on here, because she will impact you as well. She's got a great bio, but that's my favorite bio. That's my favorite one. Is her heart is so tender towards people, and she's such an amazing example of going through things and coming out the other side to success. So welcome, Stephanie Gonzalez.
Thank you. You've already got me crying, and I didn't bring a tissue. I got my water, I got everything, but I don't have a tissue. So that's very sweet.
You were amazing with her. I want you to help me introduce you, for the fact that I want you to tell me the credentials behind what you do. But I just, your heart is what is amazing to me. Your precious heart for, in particular, millennials who are, well, and I'll let you tell. I'm about to tell your story again. So
yeah, my name is Stephanie Gonzalez, and I'm a real estate agent. I've been in real estate for 15 years, and I have sold everything from a $40,000 house to a $1.5 million house. And what I have learned in doing that is that young people and first-time homebuyers are my heart. They are my joy. They are what excites me, and that's not normal. That's not where the money is. That's not where I should be. But I'll tell you what, nothing fires me up like a young couple or a single woman or a single man, somebody trying to buy their first home, just sets me on fire. And for whatever reason, that is just my joy. And so when we had lunch and we met that waitress, she was telling us little parts of her story. We had lunch for 4 hours. So not your normal lunch, but it was the first time we met, and we hit it off, and we couldn't stop talking. So we had a 4-hour lunch, and that sweet waitress would come back and check on us every 10, 15 minutes and see if we needed something. And she would tell us a little piece of her story every time she came. Every time she came to the table, which to me is like, that's fascinating, that you don't, this is a stranger talking to people at a table that she doesn't know. And yet within an hour, I knew so much about this little girl.
Yes.
And she was probably 20. And she was telling us, you know, she was a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
She was working 2 jobs. She was not driving. She was taking an Uber.
Yes.
To get to a waitress job 45 minutes from where she lives.
Oh my.
Which blew my mind because and it wasn't like we were at a high-end steak restaurant where her tips were $100 an hour. She was working at an Applebee's and she was Ubering. And the weird thing is, I mean, it was totally a God deal because that to me is like who I speak to. That's who that is my heart. Why? Like, because all I could see were the inconsistencies in her story. Like she was struggling and working 60, 80 hours a week, and she was taking care of a mom that was ill. And she was doing all these things. And her perception and her perspective of life was that life is so hard and this is normal and this is the only way. You kill yourself to make $10 an hour and it's going to be this way forever. And that is, I think that's a lie. And I think that is, unfortunately, the story for so many kids because we don't teach them a different way. They aren't taught any other way. They're taught that life is hard. They're taught that you're going to kill yourself and you're going to work 90 hours a week and you're going to, you know, and the frustrating part is that she had on $40 fingernails, right?
Yes.
$40 fingernails. And you'll see, like, I have no fingernails, right? So, and she had, you know, colored hair and she had, you know, tattoos. I get that. Like you know, no judgment. I think that's part of living. And I want, you know, people need to do what they need to do and want to do and what brings them joy. But what was so frustrating to me was when she finally came over and said, I made the comment that I would leave her a big tip because we were going to be there for 4 or 5 hours. And I said, I get we're taking your table. And I know that you're working hard and we're going to leave a big tip because we get you're working and we're here. We are just meeting, and because we can't stop talking, it's not your fault that you need another table. So we'll take care of you. And Kim was gracious enough to do that and pick up the bill. But what got me was when she said that she appreciated that because she needed to buy a tattoo next week. She needed to save $400 for a tattoo. And I thought, that is fascinating. She doesn't own a car. She's working 2 jobs and killing herself, but she saw a tattoo as necessary. And then when we asked her more questions, we got to the heart of that. And the heart of that was that her best friend had committed suicide a year ago.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that chokes me up still.
Yeah.
And the way that she saw to honor her best friend was to buy a $400 tattoo that she can't afford. To put that on her and to show that to her was respect. And it was interesting because Kim and I both were trying to speak into her life and try to tell her a different way and say, you know what, if you took that $400 and you invested that, do you know what that $400 would be in 10, 15, 20? I mean, we're talking about age before we got on. Like when she's 70, do you know what $400 could be for that little girl?
Yeah.
And she couldn't hear it and she couldn't understand what I was saying. And it was completely foreign. You know, she could not understand the concept of saving her money or that money could make money, you know, that she could do something with that other than, and I said, you know, my gut tells me that your friend would want you to honor her by taking that $400 and doing something that betters you. Right. I get the tattoo thing. I get, not that I have any, but that's my dream is to one day be like so whimsical that I could do that. But I'm not there yet. My favorite joke with my girls is when I hear a saying or something that I love, I'll say, "Ooh, that's going to be my next tattoo." I'll have like really like buttoned up clients who are in suits and ties, you know, and they'll go, "Oh, how many do you have?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh, we'll talk about that another time." I don't have.
I love it.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Steph.
That's literally my favorite saying. Like, oh, that's going to be my next tattoo. And I thought about that on I was watching your last live.
Yes.
And when she was giving her quote that she'd heard on her walk, I was like, oh, that'd be a great tattoo.
That's so funny.
So far, I don't have any. But anyways, I get the fact that she wanted to honor her friend. But to me, the struggle she was going through represents 90% of the kids. And I say kids, anybody under 30 is a kid. That represents 90% of the kids I run into. They have been taught all these things. We teach math and we teach English and we teach history, but we don't teach kids money. We don't teach kids investing. I feel like there's so much real life that we're not teaching in school. And so when I get someone in my car that wants to go see a house and they're a first-time home buyer and they ask me questions and then I can see their eyes light up when I say something and they get it, and I say, you can own a house. Like, that is my passion. Like or I've been in a line at Starbucks talking to a girl who said, and I'll say, where do you live? And she'll say, well, I've been renting and it's $2,000 a month. And I'll say, do you know what kind of house you can buy for $2,000 a month? And she's like, oh, I can't own a house. Like, I'm waiting to get married and then I'll buy a house. And I'm like, no, girl, you can buy a house. You can do this now. Like, these kids are waiting to be rescued, or they're just set in their ways that nothing is ever going to be different. And I have been on both sides of it. I was there 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and I struggled through all of that. And so, my backstory is that I dated my first husband. We were high school sweethearts, and he was my only boyfriend. And I thought he hung the moon. The actual moon was hung. We're from Texas. He was, the star football player. It just was like a movie in my eyes, And we dated all through high school. We went off to college together. We got married. We had a baby. He came home and left. And it literally felt like that was it. And I was the kind of kid that had her entire life planned. I knew what my 5 children's names were going to be. I knew how much money he was going to make and we were going to have, and I was going to be a stay-home mom, and we were going to have this beautiful Texas football dream life together. And I had it all planned out. And I found myself at 27 years old with a 2.5-year-old, nothing else. I had no job. I had no friends. We had gone off to college together, and he had gotten this really good job at the college, but everybody else left the college town, right? So it was just me and him, and we had a baby, and all I've ever wanted to be was a mom. That's all I've ever wanted since I was born. I know that sounds very 1950, but that was what was in my heart. Was I wanted to be a wife and a mom, and I had done everything I thought was right to have that life, and he threw a curveball. And I found myself at 27 with no money, no job, no usable skills. I was great with children. I was amazing with my daughter, and I knew that was my superpower, was being good with kids. But that's very hard to translate into money, And I found myself back living with my parents at 27 years old. And I come from a family. I think when people say divorce, you go, oh yeah, you're one of, every 50% of all divorce, marriages end in divorce. And I used to be very I would write those people off like, oh yeah, those people get divorced and you didn't do your homework and you should have dated them longer and you probably didn't know them well enough. And I had all these stories about it, and it happened to me, and we'd been together 12 years and nobody in my family had ever divorced. It wasn't a thing. It's not okay. Religiously, was nothing okay about divorce, and nobody had ever done it. And so I found myself super humiliated, super depressed, and really confused about what I was going to do with the rest of my life, because I was on my way to have 4 or 5 kids, and it doesn't work when you don't have a husband and you don't have any money and you don't have a job. So I had to reinvent myself. I had to do what I had to do. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a very comfortable family, a very 2.2 kids, lived in a very comfortable situation. And I found myself completely broke. And I had never seen this before. This was not what happened to people like us, right? And I look back now and I see that as the most beautiful gift that God has ever given me, because it brought me to a place to understand what women are going through, to understand what heartache is, to understand what being completely broke is. And fast forward a few years, and I found myself in real estate. And the interesting thing is, I don't think I could have ever understood what people were going through when they get in my car if I hadn't gone through all of that pain. If I hadn't gone through all of that heartache. It's one thing to say like, oh, your kid plays volleyball. Oh, my kid plays volleyball, and bond on that. But you bond on, my husband left, I'm broke, I didn't know how I was going to feed my kid. And that is a total different bond than you can have in any other way. And I can say this now because it's been 20 years. At the time, I felt like my life was over. I was never going to do anything. I didn't know how to be anything or be anybody. And now I look back, and the clients I've had, the buyers that I've had, the ones that I have the most joy have been the ones that have gone through those same things, that we were able to say, like, I get it. I understand you don't know where you're going to live next month. I understand you can't picture how you could ever save for a down payment or where to start. Nobody teaches us how to buy a house, right? And that is like the most fundamental part of your life. Where you live is, and who you live with, to me, are the two most important things in your life. Like, that's who you come home to, and the atmosphere that you come home to, your space, to me, makes all the difference in the world. And I don't mean it has to be big and fancy. It doesn't have to be. And I've learned that the hard way too, because I've had big and fancy, and now I have teeny tiny and beautiful. Yeah. And I think, had I not gone through all those struggles, I wouldn't be able to understand what people, I would have been so judgmental. I would have been so, oh, you didn't save money. Oh, you divorced. I would not have had a heart for the people that I have a heart for. And so I can see now that God had a bigger picture when that happened to me. And, I got to meet my husband that I have now. That's been 20 years. And I get to see that had I not had my first marriage, I would have never appreciated the man that I have now and the marriage that I have now. I wouldn't have had my second daughter. My whole life has just literally wrapped around this 2-minute event when he came home and said, hey, I'm not happy, I'm leaving. And
sometimes it's just those little tiny events that's what happens. That's what turns our lives around, is those moments.
Absolutely. And it has, that changed who I am. It changed what I do. It changed where I live. It changed everything. And I would never go back and change it. I would never, ever, ever. And I know that sounds crazy, and I have an amazing relationship with my ex-husband now. We had a little, 4 to 6 month rough patch. And then we both decided, like, we have a child together, we're going to be together forever. And so that's another superpower of mine. I have two, and that's my other one. And that is, we were able to set aside all of that, guilt and hurt and pain and all that went through that with the divorce, and really be able to focus on our child. And we have co-parented, to me, better than I've ever seen anybody co-parent before. And I was gifted, God gifted me with a second husband that was able to step in to that role. And I don't know that I could have done that. I think I would have had so much jealousy of an ex-wife and kid with someone else and all of those things that I'm not sure that I could have played that part. But my husband has just beautifully stepped into my daughter's life, and he got to see the fruits of his 20-year labor last year. She got married 9 months ago, and both her and her dad and my husband walked her down the aisle. And there's just nothing more beautiful than to see the grace that was given to our entire family at that moment.
Well, and I want to stop you right there and say this, that had it not been for you being forgiving and offering grace in that situation, you could have been like a lot of women I see who get bitter. Like, you could have been putting you first instead and being mad and staying mad instead of putting your daughter first and forgiving him no matter what. Like, it didn't even matter why it happened if you're going to move forward. Like, that to me is a huge testament to who you are. That being able to be gracious and being able to extend forgiveness and grace is huge. You know,
it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
And I had some very ugly moments. You know, yeah. I did some dumb stuff. I made some, you know, but yeah, I'm very blessed in the fact that we saw very early on, like at 6 months, we both went, okay, this cannot be about us. We can't outdo each other. We can't outdate each other. You know, like, this has to be about our daughter. Yeah. And so I'm glad that God was able to put on my heart the thought that this has to be more and this has to be bigger. And then to have the trust that he had a plan that I just could not see. There, I could not imagine.
But I love that you point that out, because, you know, if anyone's listening and they're going through that and they're in the middle of that, that's one of the key things that I think is necessary to understand, is we don't have to understand it all.
No.
We just have to trust that he does have a plan and that he will work it out, even when it doesn't look like it's possible.
Yeah. And I still forget that. I still have hangups and hiccups and problems that I think, how can this be going on? How, and you know, it's funny because I tend to blame myself for those. You know, I tend to see them as like my shortfalls and my shortcomings. And then, like, I had the realization this morning again, like, this is still part of my story. Even though nobody's doing anything to me right now, like, I'm doing it to myself. I have, you know, like, I'm in my own way sometimes. It's the same thing. God is going to use that. That's just part of who I am. And I hope it ends soon, but you know what? This is part of my story, and it doesn't just happen once. It happens over and over in my life, and I've seen that in my friends. You know, everyone. It's just, and I think we get stronger. And we were talking before we got online about age, and that is the one thing that I love about getting older, is that I think you realize that this is not going to kill you, that this does have a purpose, and that it's easier to see at 47 than I could see at 27. Yes. That, Lord, it feels like I'm going to die today. But I know, I give up. Like, I know that I need to trust you, and that tomorrow I will see what it is that this was, right? And I don't have a label for it yet, but it's going to be a part of a bigger picture.
My nanny, my mama's mom, to tell me, and I think this is such like sage advice, but she used to tell me 2 things that would be about anything that I was struggling with, whatever it was. One was it will pass. Whatever it is you're going through, it actually will pass. This too shall pass is the scripture, but she would tell me that, you know, this won't last forever.
Right.
And if we can get that principle in us, that whatever it is, it won't last, good or bad, actually.
Right.
That we can get through whatever we need to. And then the other thing she would say, which tickles me to this day, she would also say, and a good night's sleep will cure most everything else. Like,
very
we
sound.
use that That is something that my first broker actually taught me. How weird is that? But when I first got into real estate 15 years ago, I had this amazing woman that owned her own brokerage, and I kind of accidentally got into real estate. Like it was totally God. I fell into real estate. And she used to tell me, so we would get a call and there'd be some major, there's always an emergency in real estate. Like you cannot even imagine the emergencies that happen. And she used to say, a good night's sleep will cure most problems in real estate. And she would say, if they call you at 9:00 with an emergency, you listen, you be empathetic, and then you go to bed. Do not react. And it's a miracle. By tomorrow morning, half the things that seemed life and death the night before work themselves out. So I totally agree with that.
I love it.
I love that one.
I love that you are, you are living proof for surviving divorce, and you're living proof of surviving where you thought you couldn't survive, in that moment. And you're living proof of that. Not only did you survive, which I don't really want to survive anything. Right. I want to come out the other side thriving instead of surviving. And I think you're a great witness to that. You're a great example of that very thing. And the thing that I witnessed you do with that little waitress was exactly what you just talked about. You actually were the person you needed at 27.
Wow. Yeah.
You were that person to her, because bless her heart, she really was, my heart went out to her too, but you have an absolute connection. I can visit with her and I can speak into her, which I did, but you were the connector, and I'm so bold. Everybody that hangs out with me knows that this is true of this princess. I just asked her point blank, can Stephanie have a way to contact you, because you guys need to keep talking. Yeah. And I thought that's where my boldness, came in, because I didn't know if you were going to ask, and I didn't know if you felt comfortable. And I thought, I don't care if she doesn't like me, she needs you.
That's
she
really cool.
To stay connected, because she really didn't have the hope of what would change in her life. She at first was talking about things like she had it all figured out.
Right.
And when we kind of let her in on the fact that we didn't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, okay, I can let this mask down. I don't have to prove to these older ladies that I am valuable or smart or any of those things. Yes. She let her guard down a lot.
She did. You're absolutely right.
What an amazing, just conversation, because it wasn't like anything major happened at that moment, but I know for sure her mind changed. I know for sure she got an opportunity to see something she didn't know existed, which was a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to think I had to fix everyone. And I would have gone home thinking that meant nothing, and she didn't listen, and this whole thing is pointless. And then I realized that, it's a small seed sometimes. It's a small seed. And if I'm the first person that says that to her, and it takes 10 times to hear it, that she doesn't need that boyfriend she had to make it work. She doesn't have to live with that man to buy her first house. I mean, if that's her plan in her life, I hope it works out. But I hope that I'm the first of many who speak into her, and eventually somebody is the person that, is the catalyst into seeing that she can do so much bigger stuff and make so much better choices. She can have anything she wants. Kids today, they just don't realize they can have anything. Life is so big.
Yes, but I want to say you were a catalyst. Don't be deceived by that, because you were definitely a catalyst. Because the problem with, when you're telling someone something that they don't have any idea is a possibility, you're blowing up like dynamite their roadblocks in their mind, where she was taken aback, and And like you said, she kept coming back, and I kept getting tickled because we told her she didn't have to check on us like that, and she was insistent, and it was because of the conversation. She wanted to hear what you had to say, and she wanted to be validated by us. Like, that was a part of why she was over there.
I hadn't thought about that.
And you were a catalyst, because until you can blow up somebody's roadblocks in their mind, where they can actually hear someone, what they're saying. I mean, she changed completely from the moment we got there till we left. There was a huge shift, because now she's wanting to contact you. And it wasn't like I'm trying to get her to make her contact you. Right. I recognized in her that she wanted to continue the conversation, and I just am forthright about things. Everybody knows how I roll. But, I wanted to make sure that she didn't walk away wanting more and not being able to connect with you and get it.
When you take somebody and you start to open them up like that, then they want more and more until it all really starts solidifying and clicking. Because what an opportunity to be able to get somebody on the right track.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So don't think less of that moment. Like, that's my only thing about that, is don't think less of that moment, because I believe you were the catalyst. I believe you blew up some of those roadblocks in her mind that she didn't even know was a possibility.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate getting front row seating.
Sounds like a lunch that would have been fun to observe.
Oh my goodness.
We had a good time.
We did have a good time. I came with my kindergarten toys. That's what I always call them. I came with my sticky notes and pins, and like we did. Anybody that's been in like my masterminds and stuff knows what sticky note time is. We had some sticky note time, and that is like, oh my goodness, that's one of my favorite things on the whole planet.
We took over that Applebee's booth. That Applebee's booth, I've never seen that much work. We had sticky notes and highlighters and pens going and calendars and
We should have taken pictures and sent to Coach Glitter.
We should have. She would have been proud of us. We did a brain dump right there all over that booth.
My goodness, it's so great. And I just want to again honor you for taking the time to talk to her and pour into her, and for coming on here and pouring into everyone who's listening, because you never know who you're going to touch. When we started this, it was tiny. I was excited because we had a few hundred people, and now we're into the tens of thousands of people that watch this. And how much impact would have not happened if I would have looked at those first numbers and said, this isn't working. And so I get excited thinking about the fact that I got the privilege of taking you to the world. That's how I feel about this, is that I got to introduce the world to one of my biz besties and, let them know how amazing you are.
You're very sweet. I'm so grateful that you're a part of my story. And I truly believe that. You are me to that waitress. Right?
I love it.
You are. You are my Stephanie to the waitress. And I know that. And I truly believe that. Because I know you see things just like I see things in her. You're able to see things in me. And that's hard to find at my age. I think that's very rare. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate you pushing me out of my comfort zone in a loving, gentle way. By confusing me with office stationery so that I don't notice what we're really doing.
I think that's the funny thing, is you've been princessed.
Believe me, Stephanie, we've all been princessed.
We have to just do it, right? There's no other way.
I have photographs that I keep with my sticky notes. So,
oh, that's cool. I've still got. I've got them in my, in my spiral, obviously. But that's a good idea. I should take photographs so I don't forget.
Miss Connie joined one of my masterminds several years ago. And I laughed because I showed up in Vegas with sticky notes, and it's like, okay, we're going to do some work. And she's looking at me like, this looks like kindergarten. And then by the time we were done, she was like, holy moly. And she does it now all the time too, because it's just a way to get things clear. If you can't get it clear, you can't make it happen. And so it's just funny. But I do think that they probably will remember us forever in that particular restaurant.
Yeah, and the funny part is, like, we had decided where to go like a month before that. And then when I got there early to the place we were supposed to go, and there was no parking. It was so crowded. So, I mean, if that's not a God deal that we ended up there, then I don't know what is, right? I mean, it's just all.
Well, when we sat down, you know, the first time she came over to the table, I told you that something about her needs us today.
You did. That was the first thing you said.
She was the reason that we couldn't go to the other place we were going to go to, that she was waiting for us to show up. And I think, you know, that's something for all of us to think about, online and offline.
Right.
All the little promptings and intuitive things that we know we're supposed to do, but we get scared or we get hesitant. Remember, there's a little waitress waiting, or there's a, you know, there's somebody waiting on you to show up. And what happens to them if you don't show up? Like, what happens to us? What would have happened to me if you didn't show up? I mean, I think of that. You've blessed my life greatly. And what would have happened if you didn't show up? What if you'd have said, "Oh, I'm too scared to actually go, you know, do this."
Right.
How sad would that be? Like, how sad would the hope to have been without you?
Right.
I just think that's important for all of us to, like, think about.
I agree.
But thank you for coming on. I won't torture you any farther. Just for the record, so everybody knows, like, how bad this princess is, I didn't really give Stephanie an option, except of which time slot.
And Stephanie, you've done fabulous.
Mm-hmm. You've done an awesome job. Awesome job.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and I wouldn't trust anyone else with my second live video except you. So
that makes me like want to cry though. Thank you.
Honestly. Yeah. So thank you.
Okay, I can't cry. Well, we are wrapping up session 19 with the Hope to Hope Conference.
I'm Coni Meyers with Kick Butt Leadership.
And I'm Kim White with the My Sexy Business Team. We will be back at 4:30 Central Standard Time for the next session with, oh my goodness, with Esther Jones. She was like the assistant to Nelly himself. So come and hear her story. She's got an amazing story. And we will see you in the next session. Love you guys.